What is it that we find so captivating about silver? What sets it apart from other metals that are out there and even every element on the periodic table? And what differentiates it from other commodities and other investment classes? We will discuss all of that and more as we explore. Since silver was discovered over 4,000 years ago, it certainly has captivated mankind. Back then, they really didn't understand just how special silver was. They knew that they could work with it, they could hammer it. They also knew that it was quite shiny in the form that you see it here. But back when it first started being used as money, well, it was not alone. In fact, it was alloyed with another metal, gold, to form the first coins that were in ancient Lydia in modern-day Turkey. That metal is electrum. Nonetheless, silver's use as a monetary metal started there and continued up until the late 1960s and to somewhat into the early 1970s. So for most of human history, well, as the time wheel keeps spinning round and round, silver was utilized as money. But so much more was silver used for than just that. We see that the silver is being recognized around the world, even in Eastern countries such as India, which actually consumes about a third of the world's annual silver production. That's pretty staggering in today's society when you think about how big of a role that silver plays in cultures around the world. Now we know that gold does too, and the balance between gold to silver in Eastern nations is quite different than those in Western nations. But the fact does remain that silver is the most widely consumed metal on the planet. There's no question about that. In other words, it's the most diverse. And so when we think about silver as an industrial metal, which is how most of the market sees it nowadays, we're going to take a step back and take a look at what you see on your screen here. Because a lot of the silver that we see in this community and in others is silver that is used for, quote, investment. Although I don't like to use that term, we certainly know that it is a hedge against economic instability. Although that notion and that claim may take a while to come to fruition depending on how and when you buy the metal. But the enduring popularity, coupled with the recent surge in silver prices, really since the pandemic has brought a lot of people into stacking silver. And we've seen that reflected somewhat in the price as adjusted for inflation since before and after. I think it's done fairly well. And one can make a cogent argument that over the past 5 years, it has protected you from inflation if you were utilized dollar cost averaging. But price is only one aspect. Anybody can pick any two dates for the price of silver and make it seem like a horrible investment, and then they can also make it seem like a great investment. But the fact remains, in reality, it should not be seen as an investment if you're stacking the physical, or even if you're, flirting with exchange-traded funds and the like. It's about the long-term proposition that silver provides as a stable store of value, much as it has been when it was a monetary metal for so many years in our history. And its role as an investment haven and as an esteemed avenue where you can acquire purity, essentially, and that's what it is. Silver can be acquired and some of the highest purity that's out there, which is 4 nines, is becoming much more standard nowadays for purity. And that's pretty remarkable. So we know that silver being referred to as money is something that today is fairly controversial. Why? Well, because we don't transact it anymore. The only thing that we have are the artifacts of silver being used as money in the past. such as you see coming across the bottom of your screen right now. These winged Liberty dimes, otherwise known as mercury dimes, are the smallest unit of common commerce in the United States, the silver dime, with just less about 0.07 ounces of pure silver. But these are 90% silver dimes, which weighed almost a tenth of an ounce altogether. Those were the last vestiges of silver use in the United States up until 1964. And another example would be the half dollar, the Franklin half dollar with the Liberty Bell on it. This particular coin is a beautiful example of how silver was used in commerce in the mid 60s here in the United States. Of course, some of the silver content was weaned off in half dollars from 1965 through 1969. And in 1970, silver is only available in 40% form in special mint sets. Nonetheless, 40% silver halves were commonplace, but even those were not spent nearly as much. People hoarded those away, or they stacked. That's essentially when stacking began in the United States, is when silver was removed, people stacked or hoarded lots of silver dimes, quarters, and half dollars. But nonetheless, it doesn't really trade as money anymore. So now the best way to describe it as money would be dormant money. And that only implies that it will be used again sometime down the road. And I think in many cases, people could see that, especially with the threat of central bank digital currencies and being tracked by our government. We could see an underground form of utilization of, either old constitutional silver, such as you see here, or bullion silver coins or bars. Who knows? It could happen, and it could awaken again as a monetary metal. The other kind of money that people see silver as nowadays as commodity money. And indeed, it is a commodity, and it is traded, and reacts in terms of its price based off of its monetary attributes. But what's amazing about it is indeed an industrial metal. And, with the silver being a monetary metal, essentially in 14 different languages, including French, Thai, Swahili, and Welsh, it's essentially referred to as money. And in Spanish, it's crazy. Its distinction as the first metal to serve as a form of currency speaks volumes about its timeless worth. And we know in ancient Egypt, essentially, silver was on par or equal to with gold, traded about a 1-to-1 ratio back then. But of course, that was because silver was a lot harder to come by in that region. But now with mining technology, well, we certainly see the mining ratio is in between 7 and 9 to 1. But the price ratio is reflected much, much higher than that, obviously. We're talking into the 80s right now. With the minting of the inaugural silver U.S. dollar in 1794, essentially further cemented its significance into the global monetary marketplace. And that history is a testament to the enduring charm and universal desirability of silver as both a precious metal, and we see it as also as a hedge, but we see it as a moment in history when America truly was great, when we had silver and gold utilized, a bimetallic standard, a constitutional standard from Article 1, Section 10. Now, we know that we've seen a lot more silver being mined out there in recent history, and we've seen the silver market has experienced a remarkable phenomenon, essentially an unprecedented surge in silver prices compared to previous periods, such as we saw in 1980 and in 2011, and this revival has captured the attention of those who want to protect themselves with silver, and they see the growing value of it. And they see it, especially when we see it surge and almost double in price from March of 2020, when the pandemic hit, to about August of 2020, and more than doubled in actual spot price. And silver has emerged as a robust and invaluable asset. It is an ideal safe haven for those in search, essentially, of a secure investment avenue, if you want to use that term. And part of this here, this notion of what silver is about as being an investment, is something where people feel like they can have an alternative investment to mainstream investments. So to protect against downturns in other areas, well, you could see an uptick with silver prices, hopefully. but the prices do fluctuate. But its uses in industry make it very difficult to predict, because it involves so many different types of supply chains, from semiconductors to EVs, electric vehicles, photovoltaics, solar panels, medicinal uses. There's more and more uses of silver now than ever before, and it's quite remarkable to see. I've covered many of those uses on this channel over the course of my time here. But nonetheless, it is fascinating, and I think that is one of the most remarkable aspects of silver, being the most reflective metal. As you can see here on your screen, silver is ductile, it's malleable, and so a variety of finishes can be put on silver pieces to make it beauty, to make it shine and pop out, and this designs in so many different ways and fashions that make it quite a remarkable metal. I am a huge fan. I've always been, no matter what the price of it may be. The allure of the luster of the metal is quite intriguing in my view, and the fact that it can have applied to it many different finishes and styles of that it comes, I think is quite intriguing. Whether you be a collector or a stacker, I think in time people appreciate the beauty of it as they accumulate the metal. And I think that is something that transcends price discovery and the like. Many people feel that silver is undervalued based off of the general marketplace, but you have to keep in mind that there really is no shortage of the metal out there. It's about supply chain disruptions in one form or another. The supply chain is much more fragile nowadays, so that leads to the impression of a shortage where no shortage may exist in the actual metal. And the fact is right now, anybody can go to any online bullion dealer and buy silver whenever they want. I think that's great. And in fact, there's times of high premiums and there's times of lower premiums. There was a time when we thought the days of spot price silver were gone and done with. But nonetheless, we have revisited some of those with recent spot deals, and it does fluctuate. But that does not take away from a silver's beauty and to be able to appreciate the metal for what it is, even if the price is low and the premiums are low. It matters not, because silver exists for what it is. The metal sells itself, and I think that's what really makes it so special in the end. Sometimes all you can do, and all you should do, is just look at it, to quote a famous YouTuber. But nonetheless, that is an amazing thing about the significance of silver and what makes it so special. And it occupies really a prestigious role within the precious metals out there that is above and beyond any other metal of its kind. It's got practical applications, we know, that we've talked about. We know that it has something that a reflectivity and a conductivity that is unmatched by any metal out there in its purest form. It does tarnish, it does react with the atmosphere, but it does not lose or degrade at all. In fact, some people think that some of that tarnishing can actually be a benefit to its luster or to its beauty. Some of the luster is taken away, but it is an attribute that can be positive. And so it's a pretty amazing metal, for sure. Let me know what your thoughts are about silver. Have I covered all the bases on what makes silver very special? If not, let me know in the comment section below why you think it's so special. And I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for